Hello, everyone. I think I'm on. Okay, I was having an issue with auto hosting and nothing seemed to work. Yeah, I was auto hosting AWS and I couldn't figure out how to get my own stream up. Anyway, here we are. Thanks for joining. I am actually in the middle of a test right now. I am streaming both to Twitch and also to my personal YouTube channel. Just doing some experimenting. And so if you're on YouTube, hello. If you're on Twitch, hello to you as well. Today we are going to be continuing the same project that I had started a couple weeks ago, which is building. This is like a building session and office hours. That's what this hour is. And we're going to be working on creating a 3D interactive map. At the same time, this is office hours. So if you have any questions and anything related to Sumerian, any questions that may or may not be relevant to what I'm doing, please post those in the chat room, either in YouTube or Twitch, and I'll try to get those answers best answered for you as best as I can. And also, if I can't answer it, then I will try to hunt down an answer for you either through Slack, and we can talk in Slack, and continue the conversation elsewhere. So anyway, welcome to this today's session. And let's see, we do have some people in YouTube. Hello, Cameron Luck from work. Thank you for helping me test this out. Okay, so we are on it. All right, we are streaming. I'm shutting down Twitch and YouTube screens, and I'm going to switch over to my screen. Here we go. All right, let's get to work, and let's talk about what we're going to be doing today. Now, so far, this is what we have. We have a city, and we're saying an interactive map. Well, it's really a 3D model of a city, and we want to do various things that are kind of real-world applications that would involve, like, real estate or navigation and teleporting or learning about certain landmarks and things like that. So let's play our scene and figure out or see what we've built so far. I'm not going to go, state machine by state machine completely. We're just going to look at bits and pieces of this. All right, so what do we have? I pressed play and it wasn't quite, this will work. A map shows up. By default, this is a map, and I have different pins on here that I can navigate to. I'm currently in this location. So let's say I want to go to this location. I click that, my background fades, and then in my state machine, I've set it up to where I switch cameras. So I'm not moving the camera, as we discovered that currently does not work the way it should. And so we are actually moving cameras, and we are, there's really 5 different cameras in the scene. 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's another one kind of off here if this map was to extend. All right, so I'm going to click the X, and then I can get rid of the map, and then I can look around. And cool, here's a location. I limited the amount that you can move around the camera. So it really is just like a head on a tripod. So you can, or a head on body, camera on a tripod, I guess would make more sense. To where you can't zoom in, you can't orbit around. It really is just kind of looking around, because with these 3D models, I didn't want the camera to be able to go through the floor and stuff like that. I really wanted to limit the viewing to make it a little more realistic. So I'll hit this button to pull up my map again, and let's go to this location. One thing you'll notice is that depending on the angle of this map, the shade or the color of my pins here will change, because as they're actually being, like, light is shining on them and reflecting things differently. And so that's the way it works. And so I'm also just going to type something into YouTube chat. Hello? Question mark. Is anybody there? If anybody's there, I'm just curious how this works. Okay, so back to this. And I'm going to click X again, and then the map disappears. What I added last week is that the ability to click on this bridge, and the bridge starts a short animation of it spinning, and then it also scales down in size down here close to me. And then it also pops up a Wikipedia kind of annotation. So say that you want to be able to make it so every building or various landmarks in this scene, you can interact with them, click on them, and then something happens. That's what this is representing. In this case, we get a better view of the bridge, and then it also pulls up Wikipedia so I can learn about it if I want. If I want to have it go back, I just, excuse me, click on the bridge, the Wikipedia page disappears, and the bridge returns. Boy. Need some water. Okay. So those are really the two. We've worked on this for 2 weeks, and those are the two things that we've added. The ability of the camera to be able to move around to different locations, and then the interactive, the bridge to be animated and interactive. Now, I tried various things here. I tried because, think of it like this. I'll kind of get a top view of my city. If I'm from this angle and I click on the bridge, and if I have the state machine just on the bridge, so I click on the bridge and then it scales down and starts rotating right here in front of this camera. Okay, that's one option. Okay, and then the HTML or the Wikipedia annotation frame is right in front of me, in front of this camera. But the way the state machine is set up is that if you just click on the bridge, it will go over here. Well, what if I'm on from this camera angle and I click on the bridge? Well, it's still going to go. It's still going to go over to this camera, and then the HTML or the Wikipedia page is also going to be in front of this camera. So it's like you can click on it. It's doing the same thing, but not in front of the camera in which you were looking at it. So I attempted to last week. So I'm explaining why I have these big quads in front of it. I attempted to have this quad, make it invisible so that when I'm from this angle, I click on it and the bridge comes over here, that I could duplicate those behaviors on this quad so that when I click on this quad, it's really not clicking on the bridge, I'm clicking on an invisible quad, and then it will go over into the front of this camera and rotate and spin and scale down stuff. So you really can do the same thing with the bridge from two different angles. It works for some reason over here on this quad. It is not working for me on this quad. I don't know why. I'm not too concerned about it because it is for the most part working the way I want it to work. But if you're wondering why there are these big old quads here, that is why. It has to do with me being able to customize those behaviors to go to different locations. So that's why those are there. All right, today what we're going to be looking at is how to create like a real estate option. So say I'm in. Let's press stop. Let's get it back to the way I want it to be. I want to make my main camera, which is this floating camera up here in the sky. I want that camera to be my main camera. So I'm going to click on main camera, go to camera, component, and then make sure it's checked as the main camera. All right. And let's see. Let's press play. And what do we get? Camera should be floating over the city. There it is. And we can move around too. You can kind of get some different views. Notice those quads are not there. You can only see them in edit mode. And let's say I want to go to this pin location, and I click X. So let's say we're in this city, or say this is a model of a real city, and I'm looking around, and we want to make it so there's an advertisement for this loft up here, or this apartment. So when I hover my mouse over it, first of all, a notification that, hey, this is for rent pops up. I can also click on it, and then I can get a view of the apartment building itself. That's the that's the project that I would like to work on today. Now, I've not built this. This is going to be completely unrehearsed, but I know how I'm going to do it. And I've also already added the model in which I'm going to use for the apartment. And so let's look at that. I'm going to click on this pin right here and exit. And then the model is actually right here, placed around the camera. All right, the reason I did that, I'll press stop. The reason I did that is because that's where I really want the model to go after I click on it. So let me zoom down into the city a little bit more. I have a better idea. I also found this model on TurboSquid. So here's where I want my model to go. And I want it to go around this camera. So because I want to do it for this apartment up here. So when I click on this apartment, let's do this blue apartment. I like the blue one better. So I click on the blue apartment, and the interior of the apartment, that model will appear, and it will come down around me from this camera angle. So it really will end up right here. That's why I have it placed, because it's like this is the end position of where I want it to be. Again, it just is a little easier for me to add the model in and have where I want it to eventually be based on these behaviors. Okay, so let's work on that. First of all, let's create something that so that when I hover over it, a for rent sign pops up. Okay, let's figure out how to do that. Let's first do a. Trying to think which one to do. I'm going to go ahead and just do a quad. Really, I'm going to do very similar to those big quads that I have covering the in front of the bridge. So I'm going to add a quad. The 0 position in this scene is pretty far away. You know what I can actually do is, I think 264. Let's just copy that value. We'll get down to this quad I just created, and we'll add in 264. Let's look at the quad. Where is this quad in relation to the... There it is. Okay. So I'm first going to rotate it around this way. So I guess it'll be negative 90 degrees on the y-axis. I'm going to make it bright red just so I can easily spot it. And on the x-axis, let's make it 10 units. No, that's probably too much. Let's make it 10. Nope. Let's do 6. That's probably too much even still. Still probably too much. 4 maybe? All right, 4 is good, and we'll make it too high. So what I'm doing here, if you're wondering, is simply creating something that I can click on that will kind of start this state machine. I could add it to the building itself. I certainly could. The issue with that is finding that particular building. That probably could have been some homework I could have done. This is just another way to do it. Because all these models, like these buildings, are buried under the city sections, and then section city 1. There's all these buildings, and the way it's set up right now, if I click on this, it's gonna select the larger parent entity, which is like city section 1 or city sections. So it's hard. It takes some digging to figure out what building this one is, and it's like building 47. You know, it's not that easy to find. Let's go make this 5. Should have done it this way, actually. 6. And let's make it 3. I'm really just covering up this apartment. Okay, great. I'm also going to make, I think, camera 1 my default, my main camera, so that when I press play, I have a question in the chat room regarding the clicking. Is that based on the nesting or on the hitbox that defines the space of the entity? Yes, that would not click on the building itself. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm going to find that out, and I'll try to answer that next week. I'm actually not. We're going to do a different stream next Thursday. We're going to stream, but not this particular session. We will be skipping next week. But yeah, that's a good question. So thank you, Ekashifiro. If you want to correct me on my pronunciation, that'd be cool. Oh shoot. Okay, so I have the apartment there. So I'm going to hide it because I don't want what we want to do is, all right. So yeah, see how I don't have it close enough. That quad I want to be right in front of this apartment. So then when I hover over it, something happens. So let's go to my quad. I should have done this. And let's make it a little bigger. So apparently I was really more right the first time. All right. There we go. That's good. All right, let's add on a state machine component. And let's go state machine. I'm trying to think if there's a better, well, let's see. Let's call this hover for sale. All right. We're going to add, we have a state. We're going to call this one hover. Hover meaning with your mouse and your cursor. And let's call this one hover enter. Entity hover enter. And let's add another state. And this is going to be an emit to for sale. We're going to call find and emit action, and we're going to call it for sale. We need to add a transition because we need to be able to do that. And let's see here. Okay. We're going to do some testing to figure out the way this works. Now, I think what I can do is duplicate this. I'm just going to duplicate it. Move it. Oh, didn't mean to move it that way. I'm just going to place it right above. So I'm going to put a for sale sign that pops up whenever I hover over this. Let's add some kind of rotation because remember my view is going to be from down there. So I want to rotate it a little bit this way. Rotate it down. We don't want to rotate it down because now it's not reflecting the lights as well. Okay, great. And now for quad 2, we're going to, I have the for sale sign here somewhere on my desktop. Maybe I don't. One second, I need to find that. All right, there it is. For rent. Now it's red. So I'm changing my mind the way I'm going to go about this. Let's make the emissive a little brighter to bring up that color. All right. Now quad 2, we want to be called for sale sign. And the quad is going to be called just the apartment hover quad. Apartment hover quad. All right. Now, so the for sale sign, we want it to be turned off because we don't want that to be on. And remember, we are adding on a state machine to the hover quad that we will then hover on, right? So let's see how we're going to do this. When I hover over it, we want it to emit a message. And then when I hover back, okay, I think what I want to do is add another message. So that's a hover enter. So when you when you take your mouse and you place it on top of the entity, that's a hover enter. A hover exit is the opposite for when you are hovering on something and you take your cursor off. So, all right. So this is, I'm again trying to figure out how we're going to do this. Emit on. So really, okay. So when we hover on, it's waiting for you to hover on. So when I hover my mouse on it, it'll emit the message for sale on. Then it'll transition to the hover off. And so when I remove my mouse, it will then emit another message from another state that we will call off. And we will change the message to off. Okay, let's just see if the state machine works. First of all, so let's go over here. It's not seeming to work on here. Shoot, I just duplicated it. Okay, I think what we actually need to change it to is accuracy per pixel slow. And this is one we need to call hover enter. I did this the other day, and I think that was the mistake. So let's try it again. Turn it off, you see. There it is. Okay, so it transitions. So when I hover over it, it then is now in the state of waiting for me to exit the hover. So I will then exit the hover. And so really, I go back and forth. As soon as I hover over it, it will, it's going through and emitting these messages. For sale on, for sale off. Perfect. It's exactly what we want to happen. However, we have a bunch of these. I duplicated it, so now I have these hover for sale 2 and 3 behaviors. I don't want that. I just want this hover for sale, this one behavior. Now I am going to add on a behavior to the for sale sign. We're going to call it for sale on off. So it's going to be listening and it is listening to for sale on, and it's going to show, and we're going to add the action show. Then we're going to duplicate this again, listen, but we're going to change the message to off. And I forgot to add a transition action because that action needs a does not have a transition by itself. And then we will add one more to hide. But then we also need to add a transition. I have my chat rooms covered right now, but we are good on questions for now. All right, so now I'll wire these up with transitions. And remember, my for sale sign is by default hid. And let's do this. All right, so I don't see my the actual for sale sign. I shouldn't say for sale. I should do for rent. Bah, I don't want to go change everything, so I'm just going to leave it. All right, so I hover on it, and then I get it to pop up. I hover off, and it disappears. Cool. Now, the thing is, I actually don't. I'm kind of using, this is really just as something to click on, right? I don't actually want this to be there. Or I don't want to be able to see it. And so let's go to the apartment hover quad. I'm going to actually nest that into the apartment room. No, I'm not actually. Not at the moment. Because I have it hid right now. I don't. Yeah, I'll get to that in a second. All right, so let's add one more state, and we're gonna make this our initial state, and we're just gonna call it opacity off. Between opacity is 0, and the time it takes to become 0 opacity is also 0. And we're just going to make it go here. So we don't want it to turn back on at all. So let's see how it looks. So it just turned the opacity off. I don't know why it didn't work. That's interesting. I think I might be learning why, and I might have made a subtle mistake. Okay. Opacity off. Why would that not be turning it off? We don't want it hid. I'm not really sure why that's happening. Okay, so what I'm going to do though, I'm going to try one other thing. I'm really just going to record these values. 49, 13.8, 291.7, negative 90, 951. All right, so now let's just quickly add another quad. And we're going to call this one, move it around to 49, 13.8, 291.7, negative 90, 9, 5. Great. And we're just going to call this type it apartment hover quad. All right, so now I'm actually going to delete the first one. Add on a state machine, find the hover for sale. All right, let's see if this works. It is not making it disappear. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, let me find this one first. Because it works with this one over here. So why is it working there and not? What am I looking for? City sections. Right, we just had it at 0 and 0. So it shouldn't be showing anything. If anybody has any ideas, of course, chime in, let me know. Okay, yeah, I don't really know why it was working. All right, it's working now. Okay, so I hover over it and it says for rent. It's doing it like we want. Okay, now let's try something else. Let's do it so. Let's do it so we do the click. So now what we want to do. All right, so the notification of you hover showing, hey, this apartment is for sale or for rent. I keep saying for sale, I mean for rent, but I'm a little too deep in already to change it. I guess I could actually just change the sign to for sale instead of for rent, but that means I have to go look for it, and I don't want to do that. So for sale, for rent, whatever. All right, so now I want to be able to click on that same quad, and then I get a view of the inside of the apartment. All right, so how do we do that? First, we need to do a simple click and emit state machine action behavior on this quad. Okay, so let's add another behavior, and we'll call it for sale click. And the first action is going to be a click action. Move through this pretty quickly. I'll find a click action there. It's going to emit. If you're familiar with a lot of the stuff we do, there is a lot of emits and listeners, so things can communicate with each other. So we'll do an emit and emit message. Great. And we'll just call it apartment on. That seems good enough. We'll add another one, transition. If I could type transition. And let's just do another, oops. Let's do duplicate the click state. Nope, I actually don't think that's what we want to do. All I really wanted to do is emit the apartment on message. I was thinking about if I want to then be able to click it to be able to go back, but that doesn't actually make sense in this. So really all we need to do is click and it emits a message. All right. Now what we want it to do is move the apartment building from inside here to right where it is here. So the reason why I have the apartment where it is right now is because I'm going to record the transform values of this, because this is where I want it to end up and the scale in which I want it to be. So we're going to do 32. This is going to be very similar to the bridge from last week. 30, 30, and 30. All right, so I know where I want it to end up. Now let's place it and scale it down a little bit to something. So add in some animations. So I'm going to move it now inside this building. Let's bring down the scale to 20. Let's do it 10. Let's make it 15. We'll place it in there. Okay. All right, so we already have our end transform values. Now we want to have our beginning transform values. I just want to record these so it's easier to reference. So 52.7, 13.8, 292.3, and 15, 15, 15. Okay. Okay, so now what we want to happen is that when we click on this, so right now we have it, so when you hover over it, for sale sign shows up. Now we want to be able to click on it, and then we get a more personalized view of the apartment. All right, so let's add on a state machine behavior, and what we're going to call it is apartment view behavior. All right, so first we want it to listen. So we're going to call it listen, and then we're going to look for the listen action. And this one is just going to be what we just created, which was apartment on. So it's going to hear that message, and it's going to do a tween scale. And what we want it to go to is 30, 30, 30. And relative, no. 1 second, fine. We can kind of experiment with this. Quadratic in, out. We also want to add another action of tween move, not tweem, tween. And we want it to go to 32. Forgot which values I was looking at. 0. Really? 0? All right. And 264.2. All right. Okay. I guess that's right. So it's going to do this. So let's test this out one by one. One piece at a time. Click out of it. All right, this place is for rent. I want to get a better view of this apartment. So I'm going to click on it, and it moves it way over there. That is incorrect. It moved, great, but it did not go to where I wanted it to go. And so, so the tween move is off. 264.2. Hmm. 259. What am I? Beginning is 292. Okay. Oh, I think I know what it did. Apartment view. Yeah, relative. Gets me every time. Okay. Relative means it changes it relative to its current position. So if you want to, and there are times in which that you do want to do that, but in this case, I want it to go to that that absolute position, which is right here. Cool. Now let's say that I want to go to the next room. And I click on this wall to go to the next room. Okay, so what would we want to do there? Trying to think how we best want to do that. No, I think that instead, yeah, that's possible. I think what I would rather do is actually just wait instead, because that would require a little bit, just some extra steps that I don't want to take at the moment. So let's just take 15 seconds to look around. One second. Let's do Okay. Let's go to weight, and then we're going to duplicate this again. Between scale, we actually don't want to change the scale. We just want to move it to, I think we're just going to add on, let's do 270. Okay, so let's just do, actually here's a good example. We just want to move it relative over. So I don't know the exact values. Perfect example, actually. It's currently at 264, and I really just want to move it relative by, 7 units or something. So we'll just go 7, and it'll move it over. All right, so let's see what that looks like. All right, so I get this apartment. Okay, so it did it, but it went in the opposite direction. So let's do -7, and instead of waiting 15 seconds, let's just do 3 seconds, just while I'm testing it. 15 seconds was fine, but for testing, let's do it differently. All right, let's go up here. Not quite. I want it to be a little bit more. So let's maybe do 9. 9. I really liked how that happened. I was saying how most of the time you're going to do relative, and then I was like, except for right now, relative makes a lot of sense. I could have done it. I could have done it absolute values, but then I'd have to like go figure out what it is. This is it's a little easier. Cool. All right. So it's doing what I want it to do. There's one thing one thing that I want to add. Okay. Let's think about what I want to add. Okay, so first I also want the, I want to enclose it. Okay, so right now there's like one open side. Let's make it so it's more open. How do we do that? I just have to add some extra stuff to it. So really, I want to hide the city sections, and really all I need to do is just add on a wall or two. So we go up to this apartment, and let's do wall. Is there a wall? Shoes and tables. All right, cool. That works. All right. And then let's do this wall. I don't know which one it is. Nope. Not that one. This one? Great. That is the one I want. So I'll duplicate that one. And I'll just move it. Okay, and then lastly, what I do want to add is, just want to add like an X over here. I think I have that already. I want to add an X on this wall here so I can click it, and that'll allow me to exit out. Okay, so let's just quickly add a quad. I think that I have just that same X that I have in front of the camera, in front of the. Do I have an X? Let's just go to, oh, I should have it somewhere. I guess I should have it in my scene. Oh, perfect. Okay, so we have this. I'm just going to call this one X. Great. And then I already have the X down there, so I'm just going to add it there. Oh my gosh, this is fantastic. All right, so the apartment. I needed to figure out where the apartment is right now. So the apartment is at. All right, so this X can be moved to 52, 13, and 292. It doesn't seem. X 52. 13 and 292. All right, it's close. Let's spin it by 90 degrees. Actually, 180 degrees is what I meant. Nope, we do need like 90 degrees. And then let's go down to like 0.2. Not the most perfect, but that's okay. So we're gonna put it into our, actually, so let's add a state machine on the X. State machine, and we'll call it apartment X. Click to hide. And I also need to go through and clean up my state machines. So we'll do a click. And then a simple emit. Emit, and then apartment off. Add action. All right, I think that works. I'm just going to put it inside of the apartment room. And let's go ahead and put the city section back. Viewable. And then we need to go back to the actual apartment room. And we need to add another listen, duplicate. Okay, thinking this through. He's going to be listening for off. And then we need to do another duplicate scale move. but we wanted to go back to its original position of 52.7, 13.8, and 292.3. That's the move. That's... Oh, sorry. That 52.7, 13.8, and 292.3. And then this one is 15. Okay, let's see how this works. All right, for rent. I'm curious about this place. I click on it. Oh, cool. Here we go. I'm inside. Oh, and then I move over here. All right. Yes, I would like to rent this place. But I'll click it and then it returns back to where it was. That's great. Works exactly like we wanted. One thing is, I'd like this to take maybe 5 seconds instead of... Make this one take 3 seconds and this one take 3 seconds. And really, so this first move scale, I want it to go over just a bit. I'm trying to think which way I want it to go. So I want it to go over, I think, a little bit that direction. And so I think we need to go down by like 1 meter. I think that's right. Or 1 unit. All right, looking around. Oh, is that apartment for sale? Oh my goodness, it's for sale. Let's click on it. We slowed it down a little bit. We're now more, yeah, we're more in the middle of the room, which is where I wanted it. And then now it moves over. Perfect. I can look around as much as I want. I'm not interested. X. And then it sends it back up there. Now, can I do it again? That's always the question. Does it work twice? Yes, it does. Great. All right, let's just make this wait maybe 8 seconds instead. A little bit longer. All right, and that is how you would create a scene in which you're doing real estate. My camera went off. I just realized. I don't know when that happened. I will switch to this camera. Hello. My camera battery died. My apologies. Here I am. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, next week we actually, again, we're not going to be here next week. We are going to be looking at getting some pro tips on the AWS channel. Some pro tips from our creative designers and artists about importing models and how to work with models and some stuff. So I hope you join us. That's going to be 12 o'clock on the AWS channel. So we're not going to be doing this project next week. In 2 weeks, though, we're going to start bringing in some lot more interesting stuff. So I would like to add the ability to use voice commands now. So we've added a few different things. So I can click on a bridge and then I can view the bridge. I can click on this apartment and I can view the apartment. Now I would like to add in the ability to control that by my voice. And so that's what we're going to be working on next week. So I hope you can in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, in 2 weeks. And I hope you can join us. And hopefully my camera battery will not die. I don't actually know when that happened, but that's okay. Thank you all so much for joining, and let me know if there's any questions I can answer. We're also in Slack, slack.smeerian.world, YouTube channel. All these videos are going to be going there. The last 2 weeks are already posted in the YouTube channel, of course. In our docs.smeerian.aws, blah, blah, blah. That is also our tutorial site, so make sure you visit that. Let me know how we can help and how we can help you be better creators. We appreciate you stopping by and hope us to join us next week on the AWS channel. both on Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks a lot.